Wrexham Football Club are making a massive statement to the Championship with our recent signings in the past 7 days or so, and it seems like we're not done yet in this summer transfer window. And with these signings, it feels like we could see some players who have contributed heavily over the past few seasons for the success of the football club possibly leave the club either on loan or a permanent transfer. And I think we're going to be talking about some names that you might not expect and some names that I think personally could move on this summer. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at, of course, the recent 3 signings at the football club, and we're going to be talking about a massive name, which will be in the title of the video, that has been approached by Wrexham Football Club. We're going to be talking all the ins and outs on that potential deal. Will it happen? Will it not? Before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a massive thank you for 28,000 subscribers. You've smashed the support over the month of July, so I cannot thank you enough for that. And I'd like to thank as well the people that have contributed further to the channel, whether it be for super thanks or buy me a coffee. I cannot thank you enough for the support you've shown the channel over the past few months or so. And of course, if you're not subscribed, make sure to get down there and click the red subscribe button, because like I say every video, we're going to be bringing you the best Wrexham content. All the transfer news, all the club news, all the Championship content is going to be on this channel. So first of all, let's take a look at the signings that Wrexham made last week, starting off with George Thomasson. Now of course, I did do a lot of videos around the signings, a lot of in-depth analysis on these players, but if we're sort of giving a brief summary on these players, I think George Thomasson, looking at him, it could be a really tidy bit of business made by Phil Parkinson and the football club on the whole. A young 24-year-old midfielder who's worked his way up from non-league, of course, getting released by Blackpool at such a young age. He went into step, I think it was 5-4 of non-league, made his way up to Bolton Wanderers, and I think that says a lot about the character that George Thomasson is. Of course, getting released by Blackpool at the time, who were a Championship club, he didn't let that get to him. He seems determined and of course a hard worker in the midfield, and you're looking personally for Bolton Wanderers. Of course, they didn't get that promotion to the Championship under his time at the football club, George Thomasson, but like I said, personnel wise, I think he contributed a lot in terms of goals, assists, performances just on the whole. You know, he became a real key figure in that midfield and just in the matchday squad in general for Bolton Wanderers. And they're all saying in terms of his development, he needed that step up to the Championship, a more competitive level where his game is possibly going to, you know, get taken to that next level, because of course he's spent loads of season in League One for Bolton Wanderers. He's 24 years old. If he is serious about making that step up and serious about becoming a better version of himself, a better midfielder than he already is, then I don't think that was going to happen at Bolton Wanderers. Of course, under a new manager, there's a chance it could have happened, but of course Schumacher made it clear from day one that he wasn't going to be part of his plans. Of course, accepting a £1.2 million bid for a 24-year-old midfielder who's contributed a lot over the years for Bolton Wanderers, it was clear that Thomasson wasn't going to be part of his plans. But of course, Parky has obviously done a deep scout report on him. There's something in George Thomasson that Parky obviously thinks is going to be a key player for us going into this Championship season. Whether he sees him as a midfielder that's going to be a starter by the end of the season, a starter by January, or a player that's going to be cover for Ollie Rathbone, George Dobson, you know, the midfielders that we have brought in, Lewis O'Brien, then we really don't know. But either way, if he is going to be that backup, he is going to push them, because we know he's a hard worker. We know he's going to give 110%. He's got a good engine in that midfield. And as well, Thomasson's going to be playing with higher quality players week in, week out, who are going to force him to become a better version of himself. He's going to obviously need to make that step up, and Parky obviously thinks he's ready for that and can do that in the Wrexham squad. Parky, his staff, no doubt will get the best out of George Thomasson, and I'm excited to see how this pans out, because he's still a relatively young midfielder. You know, he's got 200 plus games under his belt already. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to that step up to the Championship. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a key asset for us. Josh Windas was the next player through the door just days after George Thomasson. You can't really have many complaints with Windas coming in, especially on a free transfer. It's a steal signing from Wrexham Football Club, beating off the likes of Coventry, Norwich City, and at 31 years old, he's coming into this Wrexham team to bring a wealth of much needed Championship experience and goals and assists to our front line, which again, that's all we wanted at this level. 18 goals and assists last season in the Championship, and whether we signed him on a transfer fee of around £1-2 million, I think I still would have been happy with this. But to fight off other clubs to get a signature on a free transfer is a really good bit of business, and I'm really happy with this signing. You're looking at Windas as a player. He's got that creative side to him, of course, with those assists he's got to his name, not only last season in the Championship, but at his time at Sheffield Wednesday on the whole. He's had a good balance between goals and assists, so don't be surprised if we see Windas possibly playing in behind the striker, possibly in that central attacking midfield role, or if he is to play in that front two, he might play slightly deeper than you're looking at the likes of possibly Ryan Hardy or whoever's going to be playing up front alongside Josh Windas, because Parky is going to want to get those two sides out of him, the goal scoring side to Josh Windas and the creative side. And I think if you're playing him in that front two, playing, you know, primarily as a striker in the front line, I don't know if you get the best out of him. It'll be interesting to see where Lewis O'Brien does play. We'll get talking on that in a minute. But if Windas is coming in as a central attacking midfielder, it could possibly mean that Lewis O'Brien is going to be in that flat centre midfield role. But either way, we're bringing a player in Josh Windas, like I said, who's got a really good creative side to him, who's going to create chances, he's going to find that killer pass, unlock the pass that we haven't got in that midfield already. We haven't got that player that can possibly take our creative side from here to here as we take the step up to the Championship. But bringing Windas in with his experience, his really good knowledge of the league, I think overall we have no complaints on this signing at all. It's a great bit of business and I'm really interested to see how he does do for us. And the final signing that we did make, Lewis O'Brien. Now, weeks and weeks and weeks of chasing the midfielder have finally been concluded. Parky has got his man, Parky's got the deal across the line, and it seems like, you know, the reaction from the Wrexham fans, it seems like everyone is so excited about this signing, and rightly so. A relatively young midfielder. I'm liking how Parky's recruiting, of course, over the years. He's sort of had that tendency to possibly get those older players in, which I think in hindsight, looking back on it now, was a really good idea. We needed that experience going up the leagues, but now he's bringing players in who are young but have still got experience at this level. Lewis O'Brien, I think, is just a really good bit of business. Whether we got him for £5 million, £4 million, £3 million, we really don't know. Either way, Parky is obviously really happy with his man. He's wanted him over the past couple of weeks, and I think there's been interest in O'Brien for at least 2 to 3 months now, so it's finally good to get him in as a Wrexham player, get him seen in a Wrexham shirt for the first time away at Southampton. I think you're looking at O'Brien as a player, he showed his quality at various different clubs at various different levels, but most importantly, we need to be looking at the quality he has shown for the clubs in the Championship. Middlesbrough, he became a key figure in the midfield, and Swansea City last season, they were dying out to sign Lewis O'Brien on a permanent transfer, but Wrexham have got in there, offered the best financial package and offered the best package on the whole for Lewis O'Brien as possible. So I think it's a really good sign at the end of the day, and I don't think I have to say that too many times. He's hard working, he's got an attacking and defensive side to him, which I think is going to be really important because Wrexham do play that 2 in midfield, so he's going to have a good engine, and it seems like he does have that. And of course the defensive and attacking side is just going to be a bonus. And at 26 years old, he's got Premier League experience, Championship experience, MLS experience. It's a brilliant bit of business on both ends for us. So this brings me on to the question now, who will leave Wrexham Football Club? Now, we're only allowed a 25-man squad, and it definitely raises the question as to who will leave Wrexham Football Club over the next few weeks. As it stands, I've done the research and I've looked at the squad. I think by the time we've got our transfers through the door, we'll have at least 32 or 33 players who are realistically players that could be in our Championship squad this season, meaning that we're going to see a handful of players leave the club. It's obviously a great team to be at Wrexham Football Club at the minute, but we're going to have to wave goodbye to some players, not only for squad wise, but for personnel wise. They're going to need to go out to a different club and get regular game time. Starting off, Mo Fowl, Jacob Mendy, Seb Revan are 3 that I think could be nailed on to move elsewhere, whether it's loan or permanent. I think Fowl and Revan, with them still being relatively young, obviously coming into the club with a high transfer fee, they're going to need to go out on loan, get that season under their belt, whether it be in League 1 or League 2, just get consistent game time, because we've seen them play roles in the squad before, but in terms of first team football this season, it's not going to happen for those two. And I think Jacob Mendy, 28 years old, he didn't really play much last season or in the season before, so I think a permanent move for him is definitely going to happen. Mo Fowl, Seb Revan, 22 years old, we're not going to sell them on a permanent transfer because we've seen some good glimpses of the good players they are, and I think we're going to need to see that this season, but unfortunately it's not going to be in the first team squad for Wrexham. Whether a deal happens in the next week or so, or right at the end of the transfer window at the end of August, I think it is quite guaranteed that those 3 players are going to leave us. I think as well, questions need to be raised over George Evans, Ollie Palmer. We've really strengthened in those positions, and I struggle to see how those 2 do come back into this squad. They're both 30 plus in terms of age, so unless there's a big pre-season season from those two, I think it's going to be hard for them to come in. I think Evans definitely has more of a chance with championship experience under his belt from previous seasons at Millwall and Reading. Yeah, I think there still could possibly be a future for him, and it's a shame because injuries have really killed him as a player, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to those two. And I think as well we might even see a surprise player leave. You're looking at the likes of Elliot Lee, Owen O'Connell. If the recruitment carries on the way how it's going at the minute, I do struggle to see how those players like Elliot Lee and Owen O'Connell do come into this squad and become a regular. And as well, they played a lot last season in League One, but it's a big step up from League One to the Championship, and I do think those players will struggle to find consistent minutes in this starting 11. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. If we're looking as well in terms of Phil Parkinson's boots, he seems to be a massive fan of Jack Marriott, obviously reviving his career at Wrexham last season. But if we do see more strikers come through, I'll be interested to see what the stance is on Jack Marriott as a player. He's not played in the Championship since the 21-22 season, but we don't really need to go too much into detail about the seasons he has played in the Championship before. He scored a load of goals. The last season he played in there, he scored 9 goals in 28 games. So I think he obviously proven himself at this level, but I think his peak was around 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah, so again, I keep on saying it, it's going to be a really interesting time to see what happens to these players in this squad. But I think on Marriott's front, I think Parky is going to give him an opportunity this season. So let me know in the comment section down below, who do you think is going to leave in the next coming weeks? Do you think we'll see a big surprise player leave, or do you think it'll be the likes of Seb Revan, Mo Fowl on those loan deals? So talking now on the topic that you clicked on this video to see, yes, you've read that right, Christian Eriksen is the latest player to have officially been confirmed as a transfer target for Wrexham. Daily Mail, The Sun, Sky Sports, TNT, you name it, they're all reporting on Christian Eriksen possibly moving to Wrexham. We've approached the former Spurs, Manchester United, Inter Milan midfielder over a possible move, and I've got all the details that you need to know about this possible signing. So talking on Christian Eriksen as a player, I think he doesn't really need much of an introduction. He's a 33-year-old midfielder who's played for the likes of Ajax, Spurs, Inter Milan, Manchester United, and in his career he's made 789 appearances, 144 of those coming for Denmark, and he's represented those in a whole host of different competitions: 2018 World Cup, the 2022 World Cup, the Euros across 3-4 different Euros. And in his career, his trophy wise, 1 FA Cup, 1 Carabao Cup, 1 Serie A, 3 Eredivises, and he's played 53 times in the Champions League, reaching a final for Spurs in 2019. So on the whole, I don't really have to say it, but you should all know he would bring so much to this midfield at Wrexham, and I think this would be the biggest signing a Championship club has ever made, and he would be by far possibly the best player in this division because he was playing regularly for Manchester United last season. But we're going to look now about the further details behind this possible signing. So Wrexham have made an official approach to Christian Eriksen and his representative Martin Schutz. Now Schutz said Wrexham are really upgrading everything both on and off the field, and it's a hugely impressive project, as you can see from the presence of people like Michael Williamson there. But Christian still wants to play in a first tier competition, and he absolutely wants to stay in Western Europe. There are some contacts going on, but it has to suit both sides. In other words, I think they're appreciating what's happening at Wrexham, and they appreciate the approach that has been made to Christian Eriksen, but he won't be joining Wrexham Football Club this summer because they've got the 2026 World Cup coming next year. I don't think Christian Eriksen wants to be playing Championship football, especially if he can still get an offer from a big European team in a big European league, or possibly stay in the Premier League for another team. So I think it was an ambitious move from Wrexham. It was a bold move. It's good to see that they both do appreciate what's going on at the football club. But on the whole, if we were going to offer a financial package to Christian Eriksen, he would probably be by far the highest ever paid Championship player, and we would have to break the bank for this one. So yeah, I don't think it was ever going to happen. If it does happen, and if Eriksen doesn't get the offer he wants and he likes the idea of being on this Wrexham journey, then my mind would be absolutely blown. So let me know in the comment section down below. I don't really have to say, would you be happy with Eriksen in this setup? It would just be a ridiculous signing. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to get in the comments, just comment anything, and I'll see you in another video. Make sure to subscribe, and until then, take care guys, up the town.